So how do we classify treatment? We classify patients into 4 groups. Very low risk, intermediate, high risk. High risk, very easy. Presence of thrombosis. Presence of thrombosis defines all MPNs into high risk because of high risk of recurrence. Or age more than 60 with presence of JAK2 mutations. Please remember history of thrombosis or age more than 60 years with JAK2 mutations. Classify patients are high risk of ET. So for those patients, you have to start cytoreductive therapy, hydroxyurea or interferon alpha, plus aspirin for arterial thrombosis, anticoagulation for venous thrombosis. Remember this. Then what is intermediate risk? Even age more than 60 years alone is sufficient to call a patient as intermediate risk thrombosis. Please remember this. Age more than 60 with JAK2 mutation is high risk. Even age more than 60, even with a normal JAK2. JAK2 wild type is also called as intermediate risk. So in those patients, again, you have to start cytoreductive therapy plus aspirin. Please remember this. Then what is low risk patient? No thrombosis, age less than or equal to 60 years, and JAK2 mutation. When only JAK2 mutation is present, we call it as a low risk disease. There only aspirin is sufficient. Then what is very low risk disease? Age less than 60, no thrombosis, and other mutations. For example, CALR, MPL mutations, or triple negative ET. These patients are called very low risk thrombosis. There either you can follow observation or once daily aspirin. This is sufficient for patients with very low risk. So remember, very low risk, intermediate or an high risk. Yeah, there is one question in the chat box. Should we need to anticoagulant intermediate risk patient with cardiovascular risk? So what I mentioned is, what are the normal cardiovascular risk? Cardiovascular risk are hypertension, diabetes mellitus, hyperlipidemia, obesity, metabolic syndrome. These are all the routine cardiovascular risk factors. So Polycythemia Vera, essential thrombocytosis, they have very high risk of arterial events because platelets are high. When platelets are high, they are more prone for arterial thrombosis because platelets go and stick to the endothelial vessel walls. So we routinely don't give anticoagulation for these patients. We give anticoagulation only when patient has a venous thrombosis. For example, portal vein thrombosis, splanchnic vein thrombosis, cortical cerebral venous sinus thrombosis. Only in venous circulation thrombosis we give anticoagulation. For all arterial events or prevention of thrombosis, we give aspirin. Aspirin per se can prevent both venous as well as arterial thrombosis. But once venous thrombosis gets established, then we give only anticoagulation for those patients. Why we don't combine, and we can ask why can't we combine antiplatelet for arterial and anticoagulant for a venous thrombosis? The problem is these conditions are having both risk of thrombosis and both risk of bleeding. Why there is a risk of bleeding? One, because platelets more than 10 lakh causes acquired von Willebrand disease. Secondly, whatever platelets are there in PV or essential thrombosis, those are all abnormal platelets. Why abnormal platelets? Because they are all neoplastic diseases. These are all not reactive thrombocytosis caused by iron deficiency. Iron deficiency also comes with platelet count of 8 lakhs, 9 lakhs, 10 lakhs. Those are all not a risk factor for thrombosis because they are normal platelets. Whereas Polycythemia Vera, essential thrombocyte, those are all neoplastic diseases. Neoplastic diseases will have a lot of abnormal platelets. So these abnormal platelets can have propensity for both thrombosis as well as both bleeding. That's why we don't combine antiplatelets and anticoagulation for those patients because it has very high propensity for bleeding. Understood? Yeah. Second question is, how long should we give hydroxyurea for high risk? Hydroxyurea, once you label a patient as high risk, hydroxyurea should be continued indefinitely, long-term therapy for both polycythemia vera or essential thrombocytosis. Previously, we found some literature evidence like hydroxyurea is a pre-leukemogenic drug. hydroxyurea can increase the propensity for acute leukemias. Now we have a lot of evidence, not only from PV or ET, even with sickle cell anemia experience and thalassemia experience, that hydroxyurea does not predispose the patient for leukemogenesis. Hence, we have to continue hydroxyurea or interferon alpha indefinitely for patients with high-risk PV or high-risk ET. Similarly, is anticoagulation lifelong? Yes, because I already told you any risk of thrombosis is a independent risk factor for recurrent thrombosis. So for polycythemia vera, you do phlebotomy plus lifelong anticoagulation therapy if there is a venous thrombosis. For ET, again you give hydroxyurea, lifelong anticoagulation therapy for patients with venous or arterial thrombosis.